The wind howled across the rocky wastelands of planet Krivox 9. Red dust flew everywhere, covering the dry ground like a blanket. The sky was dark, full of storm clouds. Lightning cracked in the distance, but no one heard the soft, weak voice. Crying from under the dirt, she was buried, not deep, just under a thin layer of red soil, enough to hide her, enough to leave her to die. Her small fingers twitched. Her chest moved slightly, trying to breathe through the dirt. She was only 9 years old, with glowing purple eyes and pale green skin. Her name was Ziri, and her own stepmother had buried her alive. "You're useless," the woman had hissed. "Born broken, no gifts, no purpose. The sand will take you now." Ziri remembered those words even now, as the soil pressed against her face. Her hands were tied behind her back. Her legs were too numb to move. But her mind refused to stop. She whispered softly, again and again. It was the only thing she had. "Help me." It wasn't a scream. She didn't have the strength for that. It was more like a breath, barely a sound, but the wind carried it. Somewhere far off someone heard it. Miles away, a human man named Grant Harlow was crouched beside a damaged rover. He was dirty, tired, and annoyed. His ship had broken down, and this world was supposed to be uninhabited. No cities, no life. Just another abandoned rock in the galaxy. He tapped his cum scanner. A static-filled noise played on repeat. "Help. Me." Grant blinked. "What the hell?" He turned the dial. The sound came again, faint but real. A voice, a child's voice. "Help. May." He stood up slowly and looked at the red horizon. He didn't see anything. No towers, no ships. Just dust and rocks, but something in that voice chilled him. It wasn't just a recording. It was raw, real, alive. "Great. Just what I need," he muttered, grabbing his plasma pistol. A ghost call from a dead planet. But still he walked toward it. As he followed the signal, the terrain grew strange. The wind was stronger here. The ground had patterns, lines etched in shapes he didn't recognize. Alien markings, ritualistic, old. Then he stopped. There, in the middle of a shallow depression, was a small mound of dirt. It looked like nothing. Just another hill, but his scanner beeped once then died. That voice wasn't coming from a tower. It was coming from under his feet. Grant dropped to one knee. He brushed the dirt gently. His hand froze. Skin cold, dry, thin. He cursed and began digging with his hands. Faster, until finally, he uncovered a small alien girl's face. Her lips cracked, her eyes closed tight. Was she breathing? He leaned closer, then gasped. Her eyes opened, glowing purple, wide with terror. She tried to scream, but only dust came out. Grant pulled her free. She was tiny, barely came up to his waist. Her wrists were bruised, tied with old fiber cord. She didn't speak. She just stared at him, like she expected pain. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small water pack. "Easy," he said, voice soft. "I'm not gonna hurt you." Ziri didn't move. Grant sighed and placed the water pouch gently in her hands. "You're safe now." She looked down at it slowly, then sipped. Her eyes filled with tears. Not from pain, from shock. No one had ever helped her before. As the night came, Grant built a small shelter with his rover's emergency kit. He wrapped her in his coat. She still didn't talk, just sat close to the fire, staring into it. He looked at her again. "What's your name?" She looked up. Her voice cracked. "Ziri." Grant nodded. "I'm Grant." She shivered. "You not kill me?" He frowned. "Why would I do that?" Ziri didn't answer, but inside her heart, something changed. For the first time in her short, cruel life, she wasn't alone. The fire crackled softly. The girl didn't sleep. Grant was already out cold, slumped against his pack. But Ziri, she sat beside the fire, legs pulled to her chest, eyes wide open. She had never seen fire before. Real fire. Warm, dancing light. It didn't hurt her. It didn't burn. This human had made it. For her. Not to hurt. To protect. Still, her hands trembled. Her heart raced. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw at her stepmother's face, that cold smile, that last handful of dirt. The words still echoed in her mind. You're a burden. The sand will take you now. But the sand hadn't taken her. The human had. Hours earlier, somewhere far above the camp, a black recon drone hovered in the sky. It was shaped like a blade, quiet and fast. It had found her. Locked onto her signal, now it waited, sending a ping back to its owner. Back to the woman who had buried her. Morning came. Grant opened his eyes and saw Ziri staring at him, unmoving. Her body was still wrapped in his coat, but her hands gripped something under the fabric, his pistol. Quietly, carefully, he reached forward. Hey, easy. You planning to shoot me, or just holding onto it for comfort? Ziri didn't blink. Her voice was dry, flat. Why you dig me out? Grant raised an eyebrow. You were dying. That not reason. Most people walk away, he shrugged. I'm not most people. Ziri studied his face like she was reading some ancient map. Her grip loosened. She handed the weapon back. And for the first time, she asked him something soft. Are all humans like you? Grant chuckled. No, most are worse. As the sun rose, the two packed up. Grant didn't know where he was going. His ship was days away, but he knew he wasn't leaving her behind. She walked beside him, slow and quiet. Her steps were uneven, her knees still shook. But she walked. Every now and then, she looked up at him with curious eyes. Finally she asked, What's your name? Grant, Grant, she repeated, as if testing the shape of it. Strong name. He smiled, then she added without looking at him, Mine means the one who should not exist. Grant stopped walking. He turned to her, serious now. Who told you that? She hesitated. My stepmother. Said I bring shame. I was born without gift. Gift? All children. In my clan, they show power when young. But I didn't. I was slow, useless. He stared at her. So they buried you alive? Ziri looked down. Only because father is dead, he would have stopped her. A silence passed between them. Grant looked up at the sky. Clouds were forming again. A storm was coming. Let's move, he said. We'll find cover. But neither of them noticed the small dot in the sky, following from above. Watching, later that day, they came across the remains of a crashed pod. It looked like an old transport, burned and half buried in sand. Grant used a crowbar to break in. Inside was a small supply locker, rations, a blanket, some clean water. I sniffed the food packet suspiciously. What's cheese flavor? You don't want to know, Grant grinned. They laughed. Just for a second, but then a sound. Beep. Grant froze. Ziri ducked instantly. Drone, she whispered. A red light blinked through the trees. Then it zipped toward them fast. Grant pulled Ziri behind him. Run! The drone fired a shot. It hit the side of the pod and exploded. Grant fired back, missing. Ziri grabbed his hand, pulling him toward a narrow tunnel that opened into a small cave. They tumbled inside. The drone hovered outside, scanning. They're looking for you, Grant said, panting. Ziri nodded. They want to finish what they started. He stared at her. Why? What are you? She hesitated, then slowly lifted the sleeve of her shirt. Underneath her skin glowed softly. Faint golden symbols ran along her arm like ink that moved. Is that a tattoo? No, she whispered. It's a map. Cliffhanger ending scene. Back at a hidden base. The stepmother stands before a group of armored hunters. The human interfered, she growled. Bring me the girl, alive if possible, dead if easier. The hunt had begun. Ziri had never seen fireflies before, They floated in the dark cave like tiny lights, quiet, soft, peaceful. For a moment, she forgot everything. The stepmother, the burial. The drone dot she watched one land gently on her hand. It glowed, then flickered, then changed color. Purple, the same as her eyes. Her breath caught. That's when she knew. They're not fireflies. They're sensors. Tracking. She looked at Grant. They found us. Outside the cave, the wind had died down, but death was still coming. The hunters were on the move. Clad in dark armor, silent, with visors that scanned heat and heartbeat. There were 4 of them. No words, just signals. Trained to move without sound. No mercy, no errors. Their mission was clear. Capture the girl. Kill the human. Inside the cave, Grant was trying to decode the symbols on Ziri's glowing arm. He had seen a lot of alien tech before, but this. It moved. It changed. It reacted to her emotions. When she was scared, it dimmed. When she was curious, it lit up brighter. Grant muttered, "That's not a tattoo. That's some kind of living interface." Ziri looked up. "It's inside me. I was born with it. But it only started glowing after you dug me out." He gave her a look. "You sure I didn't wake up something dangerous?" Ziri shook her head. "I don't know. But the stepmother wanted it erased." Suddenly boomed. The cave wall behind them shook. A hunter's charge blast. Rock dust fell from the ceiling. The entrance collapsed halfway. Grant pulled Ziri back. "Stay close." Another blast. The walls cracked. A metal spear burst through the rock and missed his shoulder by inches. Grant fired back with his plasma pistol. One hit, no effect. Hunter walked through smoke like a shadow, unstoppable. Ziri grabbed Grant's hand. "Follow me. I know a way out." She turned and ran deeper into the cave. They twisted through a narrow tunnel. Water dripped from above. Ziri moved fast now, like she remembered this place. Grant asked, "Where are we going?" She said only one word, "The vault." 10 minutes later, they reached it. A wide stone door, covered in ancient alien script. Ziri stepped forward. Her arm glowed fully, now golden. Symbols alive with light. She touched the stone. The whole wall shifted. With a deep rumble, the door slid open, revealing a massive underground chamber filled with giant machines, sleeping, silent, waiting. Grant whistled. "What the hell is this?" Ziri whispered, "A place my father once told me about. He said, if I ever became activated, I should run here." Grant turned to her. "Activated?" Ziri nodded slowly. "I think I'm not just a girl. I'm a key." Back above, the hunters had reached the entrance. One scanned the wall. A pulse reading showed fresh tracks. They moved in. Inside the vault, Ziri placed her hand on a floating pedestal. The lights in the room turned on one by one. Humming filled the air. The machines woke up. A giant orb floated down from the ceiling. It scanned her face. Then it spoke in a deep mechanical voice. "Air confirmed. DNA matched. Defense protocol available. Shall we defend, little queen?" Ziri's eyes widened. "I'm not a queen." Grant stepped beside her, stunned. "You sure about that?" The orb turned toward Grant. Human presence registered. Organic ally detected. Authority. Trusted guardian. Grant raised his hands. "Whoa, I don't even know what that means." Ziri looked at him and smiled slightly. "It means you're with me." But then alarm. Red lights. Beeping. The vault had detected intruders. The hunters were inside. Ziri turned to the orb. "Can you stop them?" The orb replied, "Permission required." She nodded. "Do it." A deep sound rang out. The floor split open. 2 massive guardian units rose from underground. Made of obsidian metal, glowing from within. They stepped forward, silent giants, ready to obey. Command received. Protect the air. Eliminate hostiles. Cliffhanger ending scene. The first hunter entered the chamber, aimed his rifle, and was crushed in one strike. The others stopped, unsure. And then one whispered over comes. She's not just a target. She's the key to the vault empire. We were too late. Ziri didn't feel like herself anymore. She stood in the middle of the ancient vault, staring up at the giant machines now rising from the ground. Dust swirled around her tiny frame. Her skin glowed faint gold. Her heart pounded not with fear, but with something else. Awakening. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. The machines weren't calling her weak. They were calling her heir. Grant stood beside her, speechless. The vault was alive now, lit with blue and gold lines running through the walls like veins. The two guardian units stood in silence, each towering like a mech statue, waiting for her next command. But Ziri's hands were shaking. I didn't ask for this, she whispered. The floating orb hovered beside her. You were not meant to ask, you were born for it. She looked at Grant, confused. Why me? Before he could answer, the orb began projecting a glowing image into the air. A memory. Not hers. Thousands of years ago, a galactic empire called the Vault Order ruled dozens of worlds. Not through war, but through knowledge. Their greatest secret was the Living Key Project, a last hope to preserve their culture before extinction. Few children were created, engineered, hidden among different species. Each one carried inside them the DNA code to awaken vault technology. Ziri was one of them, a child hidden in a cruel place, left to be forgotten, but never truly lost. Grant took a deep breath. So you're basically a walking empire trigger. Ziri nodded quietly. That's why she buried me. My stepmother knew, but why now? Why is it all activating? Ziri looked him in the eye. Because I didn't die, and because you dug me out. Suddenly noise from the far end of the chamber. The last two hunters, smart enough to hold back during the earlier fight, had snuck through a side tunnel. They wore cloaking tech, almost invisible, until one of them stepped too close to a heat vent. Ziri saw the shimmer. There! Grant didn't hesitate. He aimed and fired, but the shot missed. One hunter lunged. Ziri held up her hand not to block, but to command. The guardian closest to her moved instantly, faster than any machine Grant had ever seen. A massive metal arm smashed into the intruder, slamming him against the wall with a loud crack. The other hunter hesitated, then tried to retreat, but it was too late. Ziri turned to the orb. Seal the vault. Sealing. The main entrance shut with a grinding roar. Ziri walked forward slowly, stood over the final hunter, now trapped and weaponless. He looked up at her in disbelief. You were just a child. Her eyes glowed softly. I still am. But I'm not your child. After it was over, the vault went quiet again. The guardians stood still. Grant sat on a broken stone, shaking his head. You command machines like it's nothing. I've never seen anything like it. Ziri sat beside him. Neither have I. He looked at her seriously. What do you want to do now? We could run, or hide, or use this tech to make demands. Ziri was silent for a while. Then she stood up. I want to know the truth. All of it, who I really am. Where the others like me are, and what this vault was trying to protect. The orb spoke again, quietly now. There is more. A second vault, far beyond the wastelands, but you are not ready yet. You must complete the bonding. Grant blinked. The what? Ziri narrowed her eyes. Explain. Orb's voice. The guardians will follow you. The weapons will unlock. But to command the true vault, your soul must be tested. Your mind must connect with your chosen protector. Ziri turned to Grant. Grant raised his eyebrows. You mean me? The orb hovered. Closer. You saved the heir. The vault recognizes your loyalty. You are now her anchor. Cliffhanger ending scene. Suddenly, the floor shook. A deep alarm echoed through the vault. Not from inside, but from space stood a long-forgotten satellite above. The planet had activated DOT, and it was broadcasting one message: air located, vault signature confirmed. Sending signal to all surviving vault seeds, somewhere across the stars. Others like Ziri had just heard the call. The message had left the planet. Ziri didn't know how far it would go, or who would answer. But she felt it like a spark inside her chest had been thrown into the stars. She had called out, and now, someone or something was calling back. Not just friends. Enemies had heard it too far away. In a high tower carved into black stone, Ziri's stepmother stood watching the stars through a glass panel. Her face was cold, emotionless. Behind her, a hologram showed the vault activation. The hunters she'd sent were gone. Her fingers tightened around a crystal rod. She lived, she said bitterly. The dirt didn't take her. A masked voice replied through a speaker. We warned you she carried the vault blood. The stepmother turned sharply. She was supposed to be broken, a failure. I raised her like trash so she wouldn't awaken. I told her she was nothing. The masked voice replied, but someone believed in her. A pause. Then the stepmother hissed, a human. Back on Kravox 9, Ziri sat beside a pool of glowing water in the heart of the vault. Her reflection shimmered. She barely recognized herself anymore. She didn't feel powerful. She felt small. Grant walked up behind her, handing her a protein bar. Breakfast. She gave a tired smile. Still not sure about cheese flavor. He sat next to her, watching the water too. You okay? She nodded, then shook her head. I feel like a lot is coming. Like the galaxy just noticed me. And now it wants something. Grant looked at her. It wants your power. Ziri looked at him. What do you want? Grant answered simply. You safe. But safety wasn't coming. Not today. It began with a sound. A low rumble underground. Then the walls trembled. The vault lights flickered. Something was overriding. The systems, the orb floated in. We are being breached. External signal is forcing access. Ziri stood. From where? The orb hesitated. From the bloodline. A command code that matches your DNA. Her breath froze. It's her. Above ground, a sleek black ship had landed in silence. Far more advanced than anything Grant had seen. The ramp opened, and out stepped the stepmother. Her face was covered in ceremonial markings. A royal crest burned on her shoulder. Behind her stood a full squad elite, masked, silent. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase the girl. Inside the vault, Guardian units roared to life, but the override pulse hit hard. One fell still. The other staggered. Grant pulled Ziri behind him. We need to get out now. But the doors wouldn't open. Ziri ran to the main console and placed her palm. Override it. Nothing. Secondary DNA required, the system sighed. Guardian must bond to unlock escape. Grant hesitated. You mean like a handshake? Ziri gave him a look. No, like a neural sync. Grant laughed nervously. Right now. She grabbed his hand. Lights flared. Symbols passed from her arm to his. Grant gasped. His vision blurred. His mind connected to hers. For one moment they saw each other. Completely. Pain, memories, fear, hope. Then the vault unlocked. They ran. As they reached the exit tunnel, the ceiling exploded. A dark figure dropped in front of them. The stepmother, Ziri, froze. She had imagined this moment, dreamed of it, feared it. The woman looked down at her like she was nothing more than a stain. You're still breathing, she said quietly. Disappointing. Grant stepped forward. Back off. The stepmother smiled. You're the one who ruined my work. Your work was burying a child alive. She raised her hand and a crackling pulse hit Grant in the chest, knocking him hard into the wall. Ziri screamed. Her own power surged, but the stepmother was stronger, Older, controlled. Ziri fell to one knee. You were born from a machine, the stepmother snarled. You are not life. You are a weapon. You were meant to stay buried. Ziri looked up through tears. No, I was meant to rise. Cliffhanger ending scene. Ziri's glowing markings flared. The vault trembled once more. From deep below something began to wake. Not a guardian, not a machine, something older, something that had been sleeping since the Vault Empire fell, and now it stirred because its queen was under attack. Asterisk. The blast from the stepmother's gauntlet had thrown him into a stone pillar. He lay on the ground still, eyes shut, blood on his lips. Ziri froze. Time seemed to stop. Her ears rang. Her chest rose and fell, too fast. Her glowing arms dimmed. She had survived being buried. Alive. She had escaped death. She had awakened a lost empire. But in this moment, watching Grant lie motionless, she felt like that scared little girl again, alone, forgotten, powerless. Stepmother stepped closer, calm, cooled, cruel. The human made you soft. You were meant to command armies, not cry over insects. Ziri didn't answer, but something inside her broke, or maybe it woke up. The vault began to shake deep. Deep below. The floor cracked. The air turned warm. Then burning. Far beneath the surface, something stirred. It wasn't machine. It wasn't alive. It was both. A creature forged by vault engineers long ago, meant to stay asleep unless one thing happened. The air was in danger. Now her pain had called to it, and it was coming. Back above. Ziri stood slowly, her eyes no longer glowing purple. Now they blazed gold. The stepmother paused. What are you doing? She asked. Ziri said nothing. She raised both hands, and the walls of the chamber began to melt. Not break. Melt. Vault metal twisted like wax in a fire. The stepmother raised her weapon again, but this time, Ziri caught the blast mid-air. Held it. Crushed it. The power curled in her palm like smoke. You taught me to hate myself, Ziri said, voice low. But he taught me I was more than your failure. Then she looked at Grant, still unmoving, and she whispered something only the vault could hear. Give him back. A soft pulse spread through the ground. Lights flickered, and the guardian's long shutdown rose again. A golden beam moved over Grant's body. His chest jerked. He gasped. Alive. The stepmother screamed. No, she charged, her body covered in dark armor, enhanced, glowing with rage. Ziri stood firm. Grant opened his eyes, just in time to see the two collide. It wasn't a fight. It was a storm. Ziri and the stepmother flew across the vault, smashing walls, lighting up the air with pulse waves. Grant pulled himself up, groaning, and looked at the madness in front of him. Then the orb floated beside him. She cannot defeat the matriarch alone. Yeah, I figured, Grant muttered, limping toward the control pedestal. The orb glowed. You are bonded. The vault accepts your input. Grant placed his hand on the panel. Then give me something I can fight with. Answer received. The floor beside him opened. Inside an armored suit, vault forged, made for a human guardian. It wrapped around Grant like liquid metal. His eyes widened as systems sensed. Target acquired. Matriarch level threat. Grant stepped forward, the suit glowing around him. Time to return the favor. He launched into the air, colliding with the stepmother just as she was about to crush Ziri. The impact shook the vault. Grant grinned behind his visor. Miss me? Ziri smiled through blood. Took you long enough. Together they fought. Ziri, with her raw vault-born power. Grant, with ancient tech bonded to her bloodline. The stepmother was strong, but not unstoppable. Not anymore. Not when the heir and her guardian were finally side by side. Cliffhanger ending scene. As the stepmother fell, her body broken, her armor shattered, she whispered something. You think this is the end? You think the galaxy wants you? The vault signal? Woke others too. She laughed even through pain. They're coming, and they're not children. Ziri stood over her, breathing hard, and far above the planet. Something exited hyperspace. Large, silent. Watching. Waiting. Vault signal confirmed. Second air detected. The planet had gone quiet. No more drones. No more stepmother. No more hiding. Ziri stood at the edge of the vault platform, looking out over the jagged cliffs of Kravox 9. The wind brushed through her short hair. The sky above her was no longer filled with smoke or ships. It was open, blue, and finally free. But she didn't feel free. She felt the weight of something much bigger. Now, power didn't make her lighter. It made her heavy. She had been buried as a mistake. Now she stood as the heir to a dead empire. Behind her, Grant was finishing repairs. To their rover, his new vault-forged armor powered down and clipped to the side. His hands were scratched, his eyes tired, but he watched her carefully. He knew that silence. He'd seen it before. On battlefields, in survivors, in himself. He walked over. You all right? Ziri didn't turn. I don't know, she said quietly. The galaxy knows I'm alive now. Yeah, and others like me might be out there. Definitely. She looked at him. What if they're not like me? Grant shrugged. Then they'll find out what happens when they mess with you. Ziri gave a soft smile, but it faded quickly. What if I lose control? What if I become like her? Grant didn't answer right away. Then he said, You won't. You already made the one choice that proves it. She turned. What? You didn't kill her when you could have. You didn't bury her like she buried you. Ziri looked down. I wanted to, Grant nodded. Sure, but you didn't. They stood there in silence. The vault behind them hummed alive, but quiet now. Listening. Waiting. The orb floated forward. Protocol complete. First air recognized. Guardian accepted. Final task. Selection of next action. Ziri blinked. Next action? The vault is ready to rebuild. Power, defense, legacy. But it cannot decide for itself. It must follow the will of its heir. Ziri looked out over the horizon. She didn't want a throne. She didn't want a fleet. She just wanted to make sure no child, no creature, ever had to beg through the dirt to be heard again. She spoke softly. Then, build, not weapons, not war. Build homes. Build healing. Build safety. The orb paused. Command accepted. Project name, Sanctuary. Weeks later, at the heart of the old vault site, something new rose. Not a palace, not a base. A sanctuary. Alien and human survivors from nearby systems began to arrive. Runaways, forgotten children, strays with strange gifts, all found safety behind those golden walls. Ziri never called herself queen, but when she walked the halls, heads bowed, not out of fear, out of respect. She was the little girl the galaxy had thrown away, and who came back not to rule, but to protect. Grant stayed by her side. Some said he was her bodyguard. Others whispered he was her shadow. Some thought he was her father figure. Others thought he was something more. I only called him one thing, the man who heard my voice when no one else did. Final scene, somewhere far across the stars. Another vault signature flickered online. A teenage alien boy stood before a wall that lit up with Ziri's signal. A message played in the air. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. Come home. His eyes widened. He whispered, There's more of us. And the galaxy listened.